Okay, welcome everyone to the All In for Kansas Kids Strengthening Early Childhood in Kansas bi-weekly webinar. We are so thankful that you all were able to join us here this evening with our time change. We have some wonderful guests coming up today, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself really quickly. My name is Lindsay O'Ryan. I work for the KU Center for Public Partnerships and Research, and I'm going to be helping to host today in addition to my colleague Megan Broha, who is going to be posting a lot of great links and things in the chat. So you'll have access to all the resources that are shared today. And we'll both be trying to keep an eye on the chat as well, if there's any questions. As always, we encourage you to turn your video cameras on, your webcams, if you feel comfortable. We'd love to see everyone's faces if that's possible. And you're also welcome to come off mute at any point, ask questions, jump in. We want this to be as open and interactive space as possible. For our agenda today, we have some general updates, which we will share with you here in a few minutes. And then our friends from KSAEYC, Bernie and Michelle, will be sharing some information with you. So we're so glad to have them with us this evening. Child Care Aware of Kansas, in partnership with the Kansas Department for Children and Families, is awarding sustainability grants for round 3. So hopefully if this is relevant to you, you've already seen the information in the past for rounds 1 and 2, but round 3 is now out and available. These grants can aid in continuing operations of childcare programs through the COVID-19 pandemic. And all Kansas Department of Health and Environment licensed childcare facilities that demonstrate substantial compliance with KDHE childcare licensing are eligible to apply. We've got some notes on the screen that the rolling applications are being accepted from March 1st through November 30th, and the grants are non-competitive. So we encourage you to take a look at the links, find out more information, and see if this is relevant to your situation, and take a look. The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in hardship for many, including many members of the early care and education workforce. If you work for a qualified employer, including many Head Start, preschool, and childcare programs, you may now be eligible for federal student loan forgiveness for your important public service, even if you were not eligible in the past. The links that Megan will share in the chat will include a 2-page document and a recorded webinar so that you can learn more information. And we encourage anyone who might possibly be eligible to take a look and find that information and see if it might apply to you. The Head Start Workplace Wellness Academy is a resource for Head Start staff to learn and implement strategies for less stress and more success, as they say. The Head Start performance standards require that programs promote health and wellness to support their staff. And this is an opportunity for different workplaces and really anyone who might be interested to take a self-paced 2-hour online course, again, around wellness, mental health, and lowering stress strategies. There's a discount available, so take a look at the link in the chat and see if this might be a good professional development opportunity to check out. Kansas Children's Service League has some information for child abuse prevention training. Kansas law states that most professionals who work with children, including medical professionals, social workers, nurses, educators, and others, are mandated reporters. This means that you're required by law to report suspicion of child abuse or neglect. Participants in this training are able to define the various types of abuse and neglect, identify signs and symptoms of each type, and address areas of risk and protective factors. In addition, participants will learn about the appropriate responses to suspected abuse or neglect, and to discuss what to do in the event of child disclosure and understand Kansas mandated reporter laws. Of note, this training is approved by KDHE for 1 childcare licensing hour, so this is a good opportunity to check that out. And you can find out more information on the Kansas Children's Service League website. All right, so the Commission on Professional Excellence in Early Childhood Education has recently come together, well, really, 17 organizations dedicated to young children have come together to create this commission. The commission's mission is to develop and promote the framework for a unified, cohesive, and equitable early childhood education profession. The exciting part about this, especially, is that it's an open application for individual early childhood educators to apply to be co-equal full voting members of the commission. So we wanted to make sure that this opportunity was made aware to all of you. Applications are open until Friday, May 27th, so you have a little over a week to take a look. All associated expenses for early childhood educators to participate will be covered by the commission's organizational members. The commission will appoint up to 7 early childhood educators representing a diverse cross-section of the profession. So take a look at the links that Megan has posted in the chat. You can find out information and where to apply for this opportunity. Wanted to remind you all that the Kansas Early Childhood Recommendations Panel is the working group of the Kansas Early Childhood Advisory Council. The panel plays a key role in enabling our state to implement our All In for Kansas Kids strategic plan, to respond to challenges, elevate recommendations from communities and stakeholders, and to make decisions to help us achieve the vision of every child thriving. The meetings are held on the 3rd Friday of every month, and we have one coming up this week on Friday. You can watch the meetings on the Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund YouTube page. Again, we'll post a link so you can find that information. And there's also an opportunity to share feedback or comments or any information that you'd like the panel to consider or share back on. You can share information with Amanda Peterson or Megan Broha ahead of the meeting, and they consider that a Kansans open forum. So there's opportunities to have your voice heard. So we hope that you'll be able to tune in to that meeting this Friday and any in the future. But just to note, we do record those and they are available. So if there's ever a meeting or specific topics that you're interested in that you missed out on, you can always go back and watch those, the live streams after the meeting. Okay, so I am really excited to turn over our presentation this evening to the Kansas Association for the Education of Young Children. Again, we have Michelle Gilbert and Bernie Howe joining us tonight, and I'm so happy to turn it over to you all. I understand it might be a little bit easier for you all to share your own screen, so I think you should have access to just steal that away from me, but if not, I can stop sharing or we can make sure that you do have access. Does that work for you all?
Yeah, I think that Michelle's gonna, Michelle's pulling those up, and while she kind of gets that ready, I will just introduce myself. As Lindsay said, my name is Bernie Howe, and I am the current president of the Kansas Association for the Education of Young Children. And we are just so excited to be here to just share a little bit about what it is we do as an organization. And, you know, hear from you any questions that you might have about the work that we do, and definitely open to dialogue, or you can save your questions for the end or type them in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with. We are also comfortable with. So as we get started, I'd love to start with anyone who's on this call, just sharing maybe in the chat a little bit, you know, your name, I guess your name is already on there, but your location in the state and maybe your professional role. It just helps us to kind of have an idea of who we're talking to and the diverse group that's joining us this evening. And so you can just kind of type those in the chat as we go. Outside of my work with KSAEYC, I am the director of the K-State Center for Child Development. I've also done work in the state in the professional development system. So I've seen a lot of you in a lot of different places, but today I have this hat on, which is a little bit to the side of that. So I'm excited to be here. So tonight we're just gonna kind of give an overview of what we do at KSAEYC. We'll talk a little bit. Michelle, do you want me to tell you when to switch sides, or are we okay?
That would be fine.
Okay. Okay, so you can go ahead and switch slides. Sorry, we didn't practice that part. So we'll talk just a little bit about who we are, our structure, the initiatives that drive the work that we do, and a little bit of what membership looks like and what the benefits are of KSAEYC membership. Go ahead. So you may have heard KSAEYC, but a lot of people don't realize we are actually an affiliate of the National Association for the Education of Young Children. And that is much more widely known, of course. So NAEYC is a professional membership organization that serves nationwide and has over 60,000 members. But under that kind of national membership structure, there are 52 affiliates across the nation. Many of these are like ours, associated with an entire state, but there are a couple of states that have two separate affiliates within their state as well. And it's important to note that membership includes a wide variety of early childhood professionals. And while we tend to, come to these meetings and talk specifically about childcare providers and those working in direct care with children, NAEYC is actually composed of people who work in the childcare setting, in public school settings, in social work settings, now I'm going to try to list all of them, but in a wide variety of settings. And Michelle, you can go to the next slide. And the other thing that we like to make sure to point out is that NAEYC serves people who have an interest in serving children from birth through age 8. So while a lot of times we talk about early childhood as that kind of 0 to 5 period or that pre-kindergarten period, we actually, our work incorporates up to age 8, which is really through, kind of 2nd grade in elementary school. And so we try to find ways to reach out kind of beyond the first 5 years, and also kind of advocate for those early elementary years to also be included in that early childhood stage of development. So some of the things that NAEYC does, and by extension KSAEYC, sorry. It's been a long day too. So we provide, or NAEYC provides, educational resources and support for the adults who support children, is really all I was going to say. And then I really will turn it over to Michelle for the next slide.
I guess our mind reading is off today, Bernie, sorry. So my name is Michelle Gilbert, and I'm the past president of KSAEYC, and I'm also very happy to be here with you this evening. So thanks for letting us share a little bit about an organization that means a lot to us. So I have the opportunity to tell you a little bit about our structure, and because it is a little bit unique. And I will say that I became a member of NAEYC and of KSAEYC many, many moons ago. And I was a member for a lot of years before I really probably understood all of the work that happened behind the scenes and the things that KSAEYC was involved in. And it wasn't until I got really involved with the board that I became more aware of the initiatives and the work of the organization. So our board is comprised of a 6-person executive committee. So we have a president, a past president, a president-elect, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer. So that's kind of the small group of people that have been tasked to work on behalf of the board outside of board meetings. We also have an at-large system that we elect 5 at-large board members each year. So we always have a total of 10 at-large board members on our board because it's a 2-year term. And so we elect 5 each year. We're going to talk a little bit more in just a minute about our chapter structure, but each local chapter has the opportunity to have someone at the local level as a representative on the KSAEYC board as well. That's one of the things that's really important in KSAYC is that if you kind of think about like the structure of, we have national government and then we have state government and then we have local, it's kind of that same way within KSAYC. You know, we have the overarching umbrella of our national organization, and then we have KSAYC, but really the boots on the ground work happens at the local level in chapters. And so it's very important for each chapter to have a voice at the table on the state board as well. And then one of the things that we think is a little bit unique and that we wanted to celebrate is that we have a student representative on our board. And we were actually, Kansas was the first affiliate to have a student representative. And and we've had a student representative on our board for many years now, but after we initiated having an elected student representative on the board, then many other affiliates and KSAEYC also have adopted that structure as well. So we think that's kind of neat that we help jumpstart that. And then we also have the wisdom and guidance and support of a variety of different agencies across the state that have a non-voting representative on the board that help us stay aware of things that are happening across the state, things that we might need to be mindful of, provide us guidance and that kind of thing. One thing that is a little bit unique about KSAEYC is that our board is made up of all volunteers. So everybody that serves on the board in an elected or appointed position is doing that as an individual and is doing that on a volunteer basis. But KSAEYC does require that KSAEYC has an administrator. And so we do have a very, very, very part-time paid contract administrator. So we don't have an employee, but we do have someone that does some paid contract work. So I'm just going to pause for a quick second before we go on to make sure and see if there are any questions so far. All right. Well, our incoming president, Tristan Cope, she could not be here with us this evening, but she wanted to greet everyone. So we have a little video message from Tristan.
Hello all and welcome. I hope
okay.
you are having a great day so far. My name is Tristan Cope and I will be your incoming Kansas Association for the Education of Young Children president this year. A little bit about me. I currently serve as the Family and Youth Development Agent for the Chisholm Trail Extension District. This is a position through K-State Research and Extension that I get to do. And so I am honored to be serving as your incoming president for KSAEYC and just wanted to say welcome. I hope you enjoyed this session.
So being that I already shared that our board is made up of volunteers, one of the things that we're very mindful of is that people that work on the KSAEYC board or on behalf of the board almost always have a full-time plus work life outside of KSAEYC. And so as much as we want to be able to help and support and do good things, we know that everyone's time is a little bit limited. And so within our board structure, we do use committee work that happens at board meetings to really drive the work of KSAEYC. So every board member has an opportunity to serve on 3 different committees. So one group of committees are things that really support KSAEYC, that really advance the work of the organization. So you can see the kinds of things that people have the opportunity to work on within the board under that committee structure. Then we also have another set of committees that really are designed to focus. So we have kind of the inside approach and then the outside approach. So the second group of committees are all things that are working on promoting early childhood and the field to a wider audience. And so one of the things that I would just point out here is that the Workforce Development Committee has had kind of an evolving transition over many years. So something that is spelled out in our bylaws is that we do have committees, but we have the latitude to kind of make changes to meet the needs of current trends in the field, to meet the needs of members. And so our Workforce Development Committee started out as being just focused on recruiting students, really, and meeting people at the very beginning of their student career. And that worked really well for a while. That was, that was a good strategy for a while. But then changes happened in the way that early childhood programs were utilizing membership at the college level, and it didn't make sense anymore to have that committee. So then we shifted and did emerging professionals and looked at meeting people at the beginning of their career, no matter what that looked like. And then to meet the needs of some of the work that was happening at the state level a few years ago, we changed that to be a Workforce Development Committee so that it was even more broad than even emerging professionals. And then every board member, like it or not, gets to be a part of a committee to help with our annual professional development conference. We like to say that it's an all hands on deck event, and that everybody gets to contribute to that in some form or fashion. After taking a 2-year safety break, we are excited that we get to do an in-person conference again this year. So save the date. October 7th and 8th in Manhattan. There is information on our website about that already, but definitely save the date. It will be held at the K-State Student Union again, as it has for several years. So any questions about any of that? All right. So the last thing that you have to hear me yap about is the chapter structure. And so I already shared with you, sorry, I should backtrack and say the last thing you have to hear me talk about right this moment. You'll have to endure me again in a little bit, but for right now, the last thing I'm going to tell you about is our chapter structure. And so the way that our chapters are designed is that they are very unique and individual based on the needs and the makeup of the group in each community. So some chapters are very small and some chapters are large. Some chapters are very, very active. Some chapters are less so. And so the way that the chapters happen is that it's just a group of committed people within a local community that are members of KSAEYC and want to form a local group. And the way that our structure works is that as long as there are 3 people, at least a minimum of 3 people in a community that want to start a chapter, we can work within that as a state board to help promote that and get that off the ground. Each chapter has their own bylaws, their own policies and procedures, and the way that they operate. And the state board provides guidance and oversight, financial guidance for sure, and just primarily the opportunity to be that base of support and connection. I'm going to tell you just a little bit of a personal, I guess, connection, just because I'm very involved with the Topeka chapter. And so even though I have been on the KSAEYC board for several years now and have really enjoyed that work greatly, I think some really fun things happen at the local level. And in Topeka, we meet bi-monthly. And so we meet monthly, but 1 month is a board meeting, and then the other month is an activity of some sort, a membership kind of experience. And we have been able to, with a very small startup, we really genuinely did start with 3 people in Topeka. We started with 3 people that were really committed to get it off the ground. And it did not go fast. It took us 2 years before we really felt like we were starting to get some traction and some interest. But now we have a really active group of people, and we've been able to do some really fun things around Week of the Young Child, around Provider Appreciation Day. We have been able to do some community partnership kind of work. One of our celebrations this year was that there was a downtown Topeka event that was really centered around families, and we were invited to the table to be a part of that, and that felt really exciting to do that as well. So if anybody here tonight, or if you know somebody, yes, Lindsay, very small but mighty. If anyone is interested in starting a chapter in a local community, or even just wants to talk through more how that might look, we would definitely welcome conversations around that. Any questions about the local chapters? All right.
All right. So we're gonna, I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that we do as a state board. And the first one is one that I am very passionate about. And this is our public policy work. And so it's just like, you know, how Michelle explained our structure as kind of the national and the state and the local, and it kind of, you know, we try to hit all levels. This is how we approach our public policy work. And so we as a state board are engaged with organizations that do policy work within the state, as well as engaging with NAEYC at the national level on the policy work taking place there. So what that looks like sometimes is just, I don't want to say just, but pulling together information and disseminating it to our membership in a way that is really approachable. As Michelle mentioned, we are all a volunteer board who have full-time jobs, most of us, and we know that our membership also has full-time plus jobs. And so we really try to partner with people who can help us take all of these really big, in-depth kind of bills and policy work and put it into just really digestible pieces so that our members are aware of ways that they can take action either in their communities or with us at the state level. One of the other things that we do with that at times is either submit written or verbal testimony when there are bills being introduced at committee with our state legislature. We do not lobby, and so that's important to note. What we do as a board is we take the researched information that we have available and apply that to the issues being discussed. And so part of that is partnering with those organizations. And so we, again, like Michelle said, we invite state agency representatives, and that can be, you know, state funded or other funded. And part of that is so that we can be a partner in that work, and that we can offer our contribution to that important work that's taking place. The other thing that happens at a national level annually, NAEYC's Public Policy Forum. And this typically takes place in February. And just to share a little bit about what this is, it is a time when NAEYC's Public Policy Department invites members from all of the affiliates, typically to come to Washington, D.C. And we spend about a week just really in-depth learning about how the government functions and how that applies to the work that we do with young children. And we, as a part of that, also learn how to talk to our representatives, both at the state and federal level. Obviously, the focus of Policy Forum is the federal level. And we always end with appointments with representatives, both in the Senate and the House, for our specific areas. And again, this has been virtual for the last 2 years for safety reasons. And so that has taken a completely different kind of form as we learned how to speak to those representatives and offices virtually in that kind of different setting. And so those Hill visits have definitely transformed, but we feel like it's given us multiple skill sets at this point. And so you can see the picture there is from our virtual legislative visits this year. And we try to pull in as much representation from our state as we can, because we know that the voices on the ground are what drives policy work ultimately. So ways that you can get involved with that, whether you're on our board or whether you are a member, is, you know, read our emails. That's a great start, because we do send out, we push out policy information. Join our Facebook, because we also push out information there. And then watch for those public policy invitations, whether it's to call your representative, or some education on some of the legislation that's coming out, or for Public Policy Forum, because the only requirement to attend is that you're a member. And it's typically low cost other than travel. And the more of us there are, the mightier our voices, right? And so we really, really encourage as much as involvement as we can with that. And that is one of the advantages of having the virtual setting the last 2 years. While we miss actually being on the Hill and being in front, you know, face to face with those representatives, it has enabled so many more people to join us. As you can see, you know, this was one of our smaller calls, and it was 5 of us, and that was a small representation of the people that were speaking to representatives in February of this year. Because once we take that travel cost out of it and the time for travel, it's much more attainable for people to join us. So I'm going to pause for a second. I see some questions happening in the chat about chapters, and I think Michelle may have already addressed. Yes. Any questions about public policy before we move on? Okay. Well, the next initiative that I want to talk about is something that you may have heard about, is Week of the Young Child. And Week of the Young Child happens every year in April. The week in question is published about 3 years in advance, so we know at least our next 2 to 3 weeks. And this is a nationwide initiative from NAEYC. And really the point is to spend some time very deliberately showing people how important early childhood is. And so we have, in my decade or so on the board, the way that we have promoted Week of the Young Child has taken various forms, but it's really exciting, just like with our workforce development work. it's really exciting to see the way that it keeps morphing and the way that we keep kind of pulling more people in. So some of the things that we've done as a state, we have coordinated as the state board flags, as you see kind of in this picture on the right. They're just the little flags, like, you know, when you have them come put the flags down for digging, you know, so you don't hit the pipes. We coordinated color-coded flags for different areas across the state that represented the amount of children in care in early childhood in specific areas. And so we encouraged local groups and organizations to find a space that was impactful, that people would see and display these, and then couple that with just expressing publicly the importance of early childhood education. The other thing that we do with this is we drive information about proclamations. I lost the word for just a moment. About helping our membership talk to their local councils about issuing a proclamation that the week in question is the Week of the Young Child, and why that's important. We help them with the language of what needs to go in that proclamation in order to highlight the important things. And then us as a state board, we every year reach out to the governor's office and ask for a state proclamation. So you can see the picture of the proclamation signing this year. And that's always very exciting for us to be able to be recognized at that state level, how important early childhood is. The other thing that we've been working with our local chapters on, especially probably the last 4 years, is creating events that really pull the community together around young children. And I want to say, you know, our chapters have done some amazing things with this. You know, we've had chapters pull together music performances for young children. We have had, you know, Michelle was talking about Topeka's kind of partnership initiative this year for Week of the Young Child. And it just keeps getting better and better every year. And, you know, as with everything else, we've had to shift a little bit these last couple of years, what that looks like. And so we have done virtual events as a state. I don't want to say as a state. As a state, we coordinated our chapters to each take a night and create a Zoom event that's free for families and children to just join and enjoy. You know, we've had story times, we've had music. It's just really a fun time to celebrate early childhood. And Michelle, you put it beautifully in the chat. You know, it's a celebration and an advocacy opportunity. So the other, you can go ahead and thanks. The other initiative that we really focus on and support is backing up, supporting, and disseminating information about NAEYC's workforce development research and initiatives. And so you can see some of these listed here, and I'll just talk about them briefly. I'm happy to expand on any of them. But the first one listed here is the Power to the Profession, which it began as Power to the Profession and has transitioned into the unifying framework. And this work started many years ago, it seems like at this point. I mean, I think that probably 7 or 8 years ago is when this really started. The work really began on this. And this was driven by NAEYC, but also other national early childhood organizations. And the work really is driven by looking at the field of early childhood and creating a profession surrounding that. And so, you know, we talk about early childhood as a profession, but we're not necessarily viewed that way yet. Right? We don't necessarily have all of the pieces that you would call a professional career. And so we have we have really been pushing forward the work of NAEYC to figure out what that looks like. And so it started with many years of research and focus sessions, talking to the field about what does this profession look like to you? What if we pulled this together, what would that look like? But the ultimate goal is creating a profession that's recognized both inside and outside, that is fairly compensated and recognizable. Another initiative that that NAEYC has been very much working towards is advancing equity in early childhood. And this has been, I mean, as long as I've known about NAEYC, equity has been one of their focuses. But I think this has really, the research and the information has really become very concise and very user-friendly in the last few years as they've released more publications in different ways. And, when we talk about equity, we talk about evening the playing field. And, I don't know if you've seen the analogy where it's, removing barriers for children to receive quality services in early childhood. And I think, definitely over the last 3 years, this has taken kind of a front row seat in some of the work that NAEYC has been doing, as well as at our state level. We talk about equity a lot in our state meetings. And so, that's kind of the second workforce development piece. The other one that has been around for quite a long time is the Code of Ethical Conduct. And when we talk about a profession as a profession, a code of ethics is one of the things that is required for a profession to be considered a profession. I know I said a profession a lot of times in that sentence, but hopefully you all get my point. But NAEYC does have a code of ethical conduct. And so one of the things that we do at the state level is look for opportunities to share what the code of ethical conduct is and how it can be useful to those working with young children. And lastly is developmentally appropriate practices. And actually the 4th edition of this has just recently been released, so I'd encourage everybody to go get a copy. But when we talk about developmentally appropriate practices, we talk about age context, we talk about social context, and we talk about individual context. And much of NAEYC's work is really around finding ways to educate children that is developmentally appropriate in all of those ways. And so while there's the developmentally appropriate practices, all of their publications are written with these lenses in mind. And then we also, in our work as a state board with the workforce, try to keep these lenses in mind as well. Any questions? I feel like I shared a lot of information very fast. Okay, well, I'm going to turn it back over to Michelle to wrap us up.
So before I move into the why would you even want to be a part of this part, I just wanted to make one touch point back to something that Lindsay said at the very beginning in the updates when she was talking about the commission. So the power to the profession and the unifying framework, that was the groundwork, that was the research, that was all of the organizations at the national level coming together and looking at what would this look like if we professionalized early childhood. And the commission is the activation. The commission is, now we've got the research, we've got the knowledge, we've got the input, we've got feedback from folks. Now let's do something about it. And so that's I think an exciting thing to see it moving forward in that way. All right. So there we go. So we are going to talk just a little bit about the benefits of membership. And hopefully this will get to your question, Katrina, and if not, then we'll loop back and make sure that we do. But this is a little video from NAEYC.
There's a reason members say they're a part of the NAEYC family.
You're one person in a classroom every day, but you're one of 60,000 other people that are doing this work.
When early childhood educators become members of NAEYC, they're connecting with a diverse, supportive network of peers, community leaders, and staff, all committed to providing a high-quality education to all young children.
I've been a member of NAEYC for 20, 30 years, maybe longer.
It has been a huge component in my leadership development.
If you are a member and you are taking advantage of the benefits that we have, then you are coming into your daily job more prepared.
NAEYC provides members with an array of benefits, resources, services, and discounts to support their career growth. The true power of membership exists in the connections that take place at our annual events, in our online forums, and on social media.
There could be a bigger community of folks than just what might be available in my state or in my community. And I think and I hope that a lot of people feel that way.
My favorite benefit of NAEYC is the ability to really stand on the shoulders of the giants who know what works and know what we can be doing for our families and children.
You are in your classroom or in your small setting, but there's so much power from being with the rest of us and seeing how big we really are.
When you're part of NAEYC, you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Together we can all grow, learn, and support each other on a shared journey to improve the early education experience for all.
NAEYC is young children.
NAEYC is educators.
NAEYC is communities.
All right. Whoops, it was good, but not that good. So just to kind of let you know, the screen shows the official benefits of being a member in NAEYC. And I just am going to share, this is my my naive journey into early childhood. So I had the really great opportunity that when I graduated from college, one of my professors in college owned a private preschool and hired me. So I went straight from college to working for a very professional director, and I worked for her for a couple of years, and then I moved back to Kansas. And so my early start in the field was that everybody just treated early childhood professionals, with acclaim and esteem, and that everybody would just think that the work that you were doing was magic. And then I moved back to Kansas and I learned really quickly that that was not the case. And I can remember very much having a conversation with my first director, and we were having this, I was like, people don't seem to care what I'm, and she said, the problem is, Michelle, that everybody thinks that they can do that work. And, she said, one of the things that's problematic in early childhood is that people don't see it as specialized work. They don't understand that it's not just you show up and play with children. And so then she said, get out there and tell them, get out there and help people make that connection. And she said, join NAEYC. So at that time, I joined NAEYC, and I felt like it was the first time, in my start here, that I was like, oh, there's other people that share this passion and want to do this work too. So that was kind of my initial orientation to NAEYC, was that I felt really supported and felt like there were people all over the country that understood where I was coming from and wanted to be part of a powerful profession. So the NAEYC does offer discounts at a lot of national and statewide kinds of businesses, and they're very good when you become a member of making sure that you're connected to what your discounts are. They also provide discounts on their publications, so that's nice. They offer professional development that members can participate in. They offer professional development that anyone can participate in, but they offer special professional development just for members as well. And I don't know about you guys, but I just think the idea that there is something happening at the national level that people have put so much research and so much energy and so much passion into. I think that feeling of being a part of a mission towards something to help children and families is so important. So you can kind of see, yes, Bernie said the NAEYC journals and publications are really written in very accessible, approachable ways and have some great information. So we'll give you more information about the website, how you can find out about other benefits of being a member. But for me, it's being a part of something greater than yourself that is so important. And I think that membership is a little bit confusing, to be honest with you. And so one of the things that we want to make sure that people understand is that you do not have to join NAEYC and KSAEYC and a local chapter. It's one membership. And so when you join at the national level, when you join NAEYC, then one of the questions that you're asked when you are joining is, do you want to be a part of a state affiliate? So it's not a separate fee, it's not an additional cost, anything like that. It's just when you join at the national level, then you automatically get to be a part of KSAEYC and any subsequent local chapter as well. And so NAEYC does have membership at 4 different levels, and each level increases the amount of resources that a person gets. At the entry level, one of the things that NAEYC changed several years ago was having a membership price point that was more accessible to people that were working in the field. And that was something that they got feedback on and really took to heart. And so there is a $30 annual membership option. And for that entry level membership, most of the benefits that you would see would be digital. So you're not going to get like printed publications, you're going to get access to digital kinds of materials. And then, as I said, the benefits kind of increase as you go up between standard and premium. If you are someone who really likes to have the latest books, the latest publications, it's really important to have those resources at your disposal, then the premium membership is going to be the way that you want to go, because that's like your all access pass, basically. If you're like, I really don't need all of that, just a little bit of information and that connection, then, the entry level is perfectly lovely as well. And one distinction that I would just say is that KSAEYC does not care at all what level you join NAEYC, because you are a full member of KSAEYC with all rights and privileges, no matter how you choose to join at the national level. So does that help at all, Katrina, what you were asking?
So it does answer some questions. Some other things that I would really like to know is, so I am here in Manhattan, and so I work with providers all over Northeast Kansas. So how is the word being put out so that providers and childcare centers know about this and are able to take advantage of this membership? Like I asked, do you have recruitment events so that they learn about these things? Is it, like, just how do you get that information out? And then how can we as Links to Quality Community Consultants gather that information to share with the programs that we work with? Because I think this is great information for them to know. And we just need to know how to get this out to them.
Sure. So I am going to answer somewhat, and then Bernie, you please jump in if you have anything that you want to add as well. So the first thing that I would say is that we will be very transparent and say we probably are not as good at recruiting as we could be because we are an all volunteer board. So it would be really great for us to be out, in communities all the time, getting the word out. But unfortunately, we're a little bit limited on how that can happen. So we do rely on social media. We rely on connections through NAEYC. We do try to have a booth whenever it is appropriate at other organizations, conferences, and events. We have been a part of the communities and action labs that have been taking place across the state, sharing a little bit of information in that way. But it's primarily just taking advantage of opportunities like this. Anybody that will let us share a little bit, we're happy to do that. We do have a membership. We have a flyer of the top 5 reasons someone would like to become a member that we could certainly share. We're happy to do that. And again, I would just say follow us on social media for sure. Bernie.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. Of course, as with everything, we did try to attend local events quite frequently pre-COVID. And so we are looking forward to being back in those spaces again. But also, I'm just going to shameless plug for Manhattan. We did at one time have a Manhattan area AEYC prior to our current chapter structure. And so if there were a group of people in the Manhattan area that would be interested in forming a chapter, a lot of that word of mouth really is driven at the local level. So I would love to support that if there's anybody that would be interested.
I could probably say that there are for sure 2 people on this call that are in the Manhattan area that would love to be a part of that.
We'll talk to you anytime. Yeah, and thank you, Rachel. Rachel put a message in the chat that even our board does not have any connection to at what level people are joining as members. So everybody that joins at any level is a full member of KSAEYC or a local chapter. I would also just kind of echo what Bernie said, that a lot of, like, I will say the Topeka chapter, it did take us a while to get off the ground, but now, we're a couple of years in, and now people in the community are recognizing us and, know we exist. And so that's helped with recruitment as well. Yes, we'll definitely. I asked Hannah if it would be possible to send the flyer out afterwards. Is that still okay?
Yeah, I think so. Megan, hopefully we can help make that happen. Thankfully, I think most everyone shared your name and information in the chat, but if you just for quick and easy access, if you want to drop your email in the chat, that would be super helpful.
I mean, and also I would say I'll put the flyer is available right on the NAEYC website as well. So I can just put the NAEYC website in the chat as well, if that's an easier way to make that happen.
That sounds great. We are at 8 o'clock. I don't want to miss the chance for any important burning questions. We don't have a super large group, so I want to make sure if there's anyone that has any additional questions for Michelle or Bernie that you get a chance to ask. Okay. They have both shared their email, I think, in the chat, and the NAEYC website is there as well. I cannot thank you both enough for coming and speaking with us tonight. It was really wonderful to have you here and great to learn more about all of the wonderful things that KSAEYC is doing. Just a couple of quick last minute reminders. Is my screen shares up on the screen? We're looking good? Okay, awesome. Again, the Early Childhood Recommendations Panel is meeting this coming Friday on May 20th. A note to everyone who's joining us today, we do not have any biweekly webinars in the month of June. Our staff is going to take a break, a little bit of a summer break, but we're very interested if you have any topics that you're interested in hearing about or that you'd like to share about. So please reach out to share that information with us. You can post it in the chat. You can reach out to us through the website, and Megan's information was shared a little bit earlier as well. And I think she would probably be happy to drop her email in the chat again. Lastly, coming up on June 3rd, here in a couple of weeks, there's a Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund Board meeting, which you can tune into on the Children's Cabinet YouTube page. And there's also an early childhood stakeholders meeting in the afternoon. Both of these events will be virtual, and you can register at the link that Megan is going to share for the stakeholder group to join for that interactive session as well. We are so thankful to have you all here tonight. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And yeah, that's all we have.
Thank you so much.